Hey guys, I'm Michael. You're watching another episode of Star Wars News and Views. I'm just doing this video by myself because I just finished reading this over the weekend. Better late than never. I know it's been out for going on close to a year right now. But this is Star Wars Aftermath by Chuck Wendig. This was one of the earliest of the new expanded universe novels to come out. And chronologically speaking, in sort of the new EU in terms of post Return of the Jedi / pre-Force Awakens, this is chronologically the earliest one. So I thought it'd be, start from the beginning. So this is the first of a trilogy. The second one, Life Debt, is already out. I'm going to be reviewing that next. And the third one comes out sometime early next year. So, the basic plot of this book, just to give you a quick rundown, it takes place, doesn't really say, but it's a month, a couple weeks or so after the fall of the Empire. The Empire is fractured, the Moffs are kind of operating semi-independently, and Admiral Sloan, who's in command of the last Superstar Destroyer, calls a council meeting to sort of get all the Moffs together, figure out what the structure of the Empire is going to be, what the future is going to be, who's in charge. And then meanwhile, on the side story is Wedge gets captured and taken prisoner to this planet, and on that planet is Timmins Wexley, who later grows up to become Snaps Wexley, whom we see in Force Awakens as one of the Rebel pilots. And here he's a 13-year-old sort of scavenger, junk dealer, living basically as an orphan on this world. And so that's the basic plot. This book, it's been a long time since I've read an expanded universe novel, which is why I wanted to get back into it. I was like, you know what, I haven't read an expanded universe novel in a very long time. And the reason is because often I don't enjoy them. But I thought, you know what, this is cool. I want to learn more about the backstory to Force Awakens, and, maybe this will be good. And unfortunately, you don't really get any backstory to Force Awakens, or how the Empire becomes the First Order, or how the Rebellion becomes, at this point the Rebellion is in the process of becoming the New Republic. It technically is, but the Resistance isn't there, and blah, blah, blah. So basically what I told you in the summation is all that happens. They try to get a council of the Moffs together to decide the future of the Empire. The Rebels interfere, and it doesn't really work out. And that's it. So there really actually is no backstory. So if you're reading it for that reason, you're going to be disappointed. And speaking of disappointment, I was not very impressed with this book, to be honest. To start, it's like there's a lot of characters introduced. And at the beginning, Wedge is kind of in it, but barely in it. He spends the majority of the book unconscious. And there's a lot of characters in the first 100 pages or so that are introduced and not really developed, but, they all, eventually in the third act, they all come together. But the pacing is very off. It's very slow up until the very end. And the main thing is that I found a big problem with I guess you'd call it the prose, the writing style. For start, this is written in present tense, which is fine. That's not a knock against the novel. I don't know why. I just find that kind of weird if it's not written in past tense. Sometimes that can work. I don't have a problem with that. It just felt like it was an arbitrary decision. I don't know if it was to give it maybe a sense of more urgency or whatever. But one thing I guess the biggest thing about this was that there was no subtlety. The author states the emotions that the characters are feeling. The author goes out of his way to spell out the themes to the point where literally he'll stop and say, this is what this means, thematically. So I'll just give you an example. I just made a note. This is not representative of the entire novel, but this is something you'll find throughout. So it says, this is one of the characters talking. It says, she's trying to gain control of this Imperial meeting that's kind of going out of control. And she says, by lunchtime, we will adjourn to that secondary location and continue this there. That statement is her trying to put boot down on the neck of a wriggling serpent to pin it to the ground before it bites her. That statement is this. Like, instead of it being the reader inferring that and just picking up on these things, this character is feeling this. You'll find things like that. But what I discovered in reading about the history of Chuck Wendig is that he's primarily a young adult novel writer, and he's also a game developer. So, for example, there's a part in the novel where there's a battle going on, and it says, so-and-so quick ducks behind a concrete pillar to avoid blaster fire. Quick ducks? What was press L2 to quick duck? That's like a video game term, right? So little things like that I found kind of odd and off-putting. And I think the best way to take it then is to think of this as a young adult novel. And if you consider it like that, these types of things are a bit more forgivable. It's a book that is intended to be able to be read by maybe a 13-year-old, but if you're an adult, you can appreciate it as well. So some of the good things about this book. The good things is that the characters are pretty interesting. Probably the best character is Snaps. Young Snaps has a battle droid called Mr. Bones that he's custom reprogrammed to be like a ninja battle master. And towards the end of the novel, the last act, it actually does start picking up, because the first half, and this is almost 400 pages, so for the first 200 pages, it's very disjointed, very badly paced, but towards the end it does start picking up. So there were also, though, just as a side note, a couple references to the prequels and to the Clone Wars, which were integrated pretty well. There's lots of references to droid factories and, Geonosis and Mustafar. And there's also a reference to Black Sun, which may mean that Prince Shizor could be canonized. Overall, I went into this with a fresh slate. I didn't really know anything about it. I didn't know it. Actually, looking it up, it did get pretty bad reviews. I would give it about a 4 out of 10. But like I said, considering this as a young adult novel, which it basically is, if you consider that, I'd maybe bump it up to like a 5.5 in that respect. I think that's part of the problem why I often stay away from the EU. It's just, novel-wise at least, is because it's a weird line to walk, and I think that's why books like Timothy Zahn's Thrawn trilogy get kind of overhyped, is because they are more adult-oriented. They don't try to play double duty, and they just assume that, a 13-year-old can keep up, which they can. So, apparently the second book in this is much better, and one of the best scenes in this is, like I said, interludes. They have these kind of snapshots of the galaxy, which doesn't help the sort of just disjointed feeling of the first half of this book. But one of the best ones takes place between Han and Chewie on the Millennium Falcon, and he nailed the characterization of them. Just really, really good. And I think someone at Lucas Books was like, that scene you did? That was really good. Why don't you center a whole book, the second book, around that? And so that's where you get the second book, Life Debt. But apparently the sequel is much better, so I'm going to be taking a look at that next. I just got this from my local library. I'm glad I didn't pay 35 Canadian dollars for it. But the next one, I have a hold on it, so I'll be picking that up in the next couple days. If you're selective about expanded universe stuff, you definitely don't need to get this. Unfortunately, I wanted to like it, didn't really enjoy it. I did devour it in 2 days, and I'm a slow reader, so there's that. Some good characters. The Admiral Sloane character is very good. There's a couple good scenes with her. There's a couple good scenes where Wedge is being interrogated by one of the Emperor's former trusted aides, and he's going on about the philosophical aspects of the dark side, and that's really interesting. Some good moments. Overall, 380 pages, I don't think so. So, thanks for watching, guys. Tell me what you think if you read this and you liked it. Tell me why, and tell me why I'm wrong. This is just my opinion. So, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next episode.